you will not be destroyed by the enemy out there. You will be destroyed by the very person sitting next to you, the one who once raised a glass with you, once called you brother, once swore they'd stay with you until the end. In the world of power, and even in everyday life, there are sins that are never written in law books, never found in constitutions, and certainly never echoed in moral speeches. They are silent, small, but they need only one thing: your forgiveness. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever built a project with teammates, but when the storm came, a few vanished without a word? Have you ever lent a friend money, or opened a door of opportunity for them, only to see them act as if they never owed you anything when you were in need? Or maybe, right in your workplace, there's someone who nods and praises you, yet behind your back only schemes to take your position. Those seemingly small things are the cracks. And if you stay silent, brushing them off because you don't want conflict, then you are the one writing your own obituary. Machiavelli did not write for dreamers, nor did he teach those who wish to live comfortably. He wrote for those who understand a cold truth. Power and even life itself is rarely destroyed by open enemies, but slowly eaten away by betrayal, ingratitude, greed, and empty smiles. And if you fail to see it, you will be devoured, not by strangers, but by the faces closest to you. Today, we will expose 7 behaviors that must never be forgiven. 7 forces strong enough to destroy your throne, your reputation, and even your very soul. Have you ever lost faith in a friend, been sabotaged by a colleague, or felt abandoned in your weakest hour? If so, you will see yourself in every word here. Because sometimes, survival is not about how strong you are, it is about knowing exactly what must never be forgiven. Betrayal in times of crisis. People often say, loyalty is measured by time, but Machiavelli thought differently. He measured loyalty by crisis. When the sky is clear, anyone can swear eternal devotion. When money flows easily and work is smooth, anyone can act loyal. But when the ship tilts, when the storm strikes, when everything seems about to shatter, that is when you see who truly belongs to you and who only belongs to victory. You've met these people before, the colleague who partied with you like a brother, but when the company faced a crisis, quietly disappeared. The best friend, who was always there for celebrations, but when you were unemployed or broke, wouldn't even pick up the phone. The lover who swore eternal love, but the moment you hit rock bottom, immediately found another shoulder to lean on. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's simply absence, the silence, at the exact moment you needed them most. And that silence hurts more than 1,000 lies. What's even more bitter is what comes later. When you've survived the storm, when you stand up again, they return with familiar excuses. I was busy with personal matters. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. I always cared about you, really, just from afar. Machiavelli would tell you plainly, don't believe them. Someone who has turned their back once will turn their back again if you let them stay. Forgiving betrayal is not kindness. It is a silent signal to the entire system. Betrayal has no consequences. There, saw a spaying on. There is one no. And from that moment on, loyalty around you begins to rot. People are no longer loyal out of respect, but only on one condition: so long as you still hold power. You will be surrounded by smiling faces, but inside, their heads runs only one calculation: is this person still strong enough for me to follow? And once you become someone to be weighed, instead of someone to be followed, your power has already begun to crumble. In the storm, you don't need a noisy crowd. You only need one person who dares to stand firm beside you, even as everything falls apart. That one person is worth more than 100 who cheer at banquets. Machiavelli emphasized, betrayal is not just a personal story. It is a crack in the very foundation of power. When subordinates see that you can be abandoned, they begin to believe you are no longer untouchable. From that point on, your throne is no longer destiny, but just a temporary chair, waiting to be replaced. Remember, betrayal, in any form, is a silent declaration. I no longer choose to stand with you. It needs no dagger, no sword, only one silent decision. So when you collapse and no one reaches out, you don't need to ask why. You only need to remember that face. And when you rise again, never let those faces return to their old place. Because every time you forgive betrayal, you don't just forgive one person. You are teaching the entire world a new rule. Loyalty is optional. Just come back at the right time. And from that rule, an empire begins to rot from within. If you have ever been abandoned at your weakest moment, write "I have" in the comments. That's how you remind yourself. Betrayal only needs to be seen once to be enough. Cowardice in leadership. There is nothing more dangerous than a coward sitting on the throne. Most people believe an empire collapses because of brutal enemies, conspiracies in the shadows, or betrayal from trusted aides. But Machiavelli pointed out, the fastest destroyer is the leader, who fears his own power. Cowardice rarely shows through trembling hands. It hides behind the mask of morality. We need more time. We must hold another meeting. Everyone needs to agree first. It sounds wise, but in reality, it is nothing more than an escape from responsibility. Have you seen this before? A boss, when the company is in crisis, instead of making a decisive call, keeps pushing deadlines and dumping the burden on subordinates. The result? The team collapses, trust evaporates. A politician preaching peace and morality, but in truth, only afraid to sign a decision that could cost him his seat. A father, when disaster strikes the family, staying silent and hiding, leaving his wife and children to fend for themselves. When the one at the top hesitates, the eyes of subordinates change instantly, from trust to doubt, from doubt to despair. And once trust collapses, enemies aren't needed. The kingdom melts from within. Picture this. You are a soldier on the battlefield. The enemy is closing in, arrows drawn. You look to your commander and see him trembling, discussing, waiting for more data. Every second that passes, more lives fall. Do you still trust him, or do you start plotting your escape? Fear spreads like a plague. From the peak of power to the bottom of the chain, it turns a proud army into a panicked mob. Machiavelli understood. Every second of hesitation from the leader is a knife into the heart of the system. A collective does not fear its enemy as much as it fears its leader, not knowing what to do. Leadership is not about waiting for all the data. It is the art of acting amid uncertainty. The strong are not fearless. They act despite fear. People may tremble before a ruthless leader, but they will despise a cowardly one. And once contempt appears, your power is no longer power. It becomes a tattered cloak, waiting for someone else to rip it away. Ask yourself, would you rather follow a ruthless but decisive leader, or a kind but cowardly one? Comment ruthless or cowardly to see where your choice belongs. Flattery disguised as loyalty. There is a kind of person who has never once opposed you. They always nod, always praise, always say you are right. And at first, that feels pleasant. But Machiavelli reminds us that very comfort is the sweetest blade. Enemies force you to stay sharp, but flatterers lull you into illusion. Flattery is like a sweet wine. At first, it makes you feel respected, recognized. But the more you drink, the more intoxicated you become, until you can no longer tell truth from lies. And once you're addicted to praise, you lose the ability to see reality. You've met this type of person before. At work, they're the ones saying, "Yes, of course, you're right," to the boss, but sighing and gossiping with the crowd behind his back. In the family, they're the relatives who only show up when you succeed, praising you in front of everyone, but never once offering an honest word to help you grow. In friendship, they're the ones always cheering, "You're amazing. Everything you do is right." But when you stumble, they fall silent, letting you crash into the pit alone. True loyalty sometimes makes you uncomfortable. They dare to say, "You're wrong." They make you angry, but they save you from the abyss. Flatterers, on the other hand, never take risks. They don't care about you, they care about the power orbiting around you. Want to recognize them? Look closely. Who has never dared to say no to you? Who always knows the right time to praise? Who turns every conversation into a mirror, reflecting only your ego? That person is not an ally. They are a parasite feeding on your pride. And here lies the tragedy. When you lose power, the very ones who once cheered you will be the first to vanish. Or worse, they will run to your enemy with the same smile, the same praise, only changing the target to survive. Machiavelli warns, never confuse loyalty with flattery. Loyalty may irritate you at times, but it will never let you self-destruct. Flattery will sing you into a false dream and abandon you when the nightmare arrives. So do you want by your side someone honest or someone who always flatters? Comment, honest or flatterer, to see what the community chooses. Public challenges to power. Power does not only exist in weapons, titles or laws. It exists in the belief that the one at the top is untouchable. And that belief is more fragile than you think. It only takes a mocking joke in front of the crowd, a sarcastic laugh in the meeting room, an employee daring to oppose you publicly during a presentation. That alone is enough. The first cut into your authority has been made. Machiavelli knew this well. A public challenge doesn't have to topple you immediately. It only plants a dangerous question in everyone's mind. If he dared to speak, why shouldn't I? And then, eyes begin to shift. Whispers spread. Trust quietly turns into doubt. You've seen this before. In a company, an outspoken employee talks back to the boss in front of the whole team. If the boss stays silent, everyone thinks, so, he can be challenged after all. In a family, a child argues with their parents in front of relatives. If the parents just laugh it off, people begin whispering, maybe they've lost their authority. Among friends, one person gets mocked openly. If they don't react, the group's hierarchy instantly flips. The danger is not in the words, it lies in how you respond. If you let it slide to keep the peace, if you laugh it off out of fear of judgment, you've just lost the most sacred thing, fear and respect. Power doesn't require you to be cruel without reason, but it demands an iron principle. Every public act of defiance must have consequences. Otherwise, you've just set a precedent, and that precedent is an invitation for others to test you. Machiavelli warns, a public rebuttal left unpunished becomes a license for the next challenger, and then you're no longer the leader. You're the main actor in a comedy, where every word you say is turned into a joke. Some will cleverly hide ambition under morality. I'm only speaking up for the greater good. But anyone who puts their virtue above your authority in front of others is secretly declaring, I deserve your place. Thank you's in the settable fortune of the tenchu. The downfall of power rarely comes from a single fatal blow. It usually begins with a small joke, a public protest you ignored. And by the time you realize it, your throne has already turned into a stage for someone else's speech. What do you think? Should a leader let it slide or strike immediately when challenged publicly? Comment, let it slide or strike back to see where the community stands. Ingratitude after favor. In the world of power, as in everyday life, the most dangerous enemy is not always the one who openly opposes you. It is the one you once saved, once lifted up, who then coldly turns their back when you are weak. Machiavelli warns, nothing erodes power faster than ingratitude. Ingratitude is not just forgetting a debt. It is a declaration. What you sacrificed no longer matters. You've surely seen this before. You gave a colleague a chance to rise, but when the company faced hardship, they were the first to leave, sometimes even slandering you to save themselves. You lent money to a friend in their darkest hour, but when you were in need, they not only stayed silent, they pretended to never remember. You sheltered someone, lifted them from the depths, but when you stumbled, they shook hands with your enemy, whispering, "I know his weakness." The bitterest truth? You were the one who opened the door for them. You trusted them, raised them high, and now they stand high enough to stab downward. Machiavelli did not teach us to stop giving, but he reminded us, never plant seeds on barren ground. Grant a favor to the grateful, you gain an ally. Grant a favor to the ungrateful, you only feed a parasite hollowing you from within. The ungrateful are not tied to you, they are tied only to benefit. When you hold power, they swarm like bees to honey. When you fall, they vanish faster than a thank you. And when you rise again, they return with the same smile, the same sweet words, but carrying new schemes. Remember this: gratitude can be silent, but ingratitude always reveals itself when you are in trouble. If someone leaves you the moment you have nothing left to give, that is their true nature. Forgiving ingratitude does not just cost you once more, it teaches the entire system a terrible lesson. Betrayal is not as dangerous as failure, and the ungrateful, because they were once nurtured by you, know how you think, know your forgiving habits, and will use that against you to finish you. Gratitude cannot be demanded, but ingratitude must be punished. Each time you pardon the ungrateful, you carve a crack into your foundation that will never heal. Think back. In your life, who have you once helped, only for them to turn away when you fell? If someone comes to mind, comment, "I have seen it," to remind yourself, ingratitude must never be forgiven. Ambition without loyalty. Ambition in itself is not evil. It is the fire that drives people beyond their limits. Through ambition, the weak dare to rise, and the ordinary dare to dream greatly. Machiavelli himself admitted, "Every empire is built on ambition, but when ambition is separated from loyalty, it is no longer fuel. It becomes a ticking bomb within a system. A man with talent and willpower, but with no attachment, no obedience, no respect for anyone that is not an ally. That is an opportunist. He may work brilliantly, speak eloquently, win favor with every faction. He keeps an image of being neutral, never fully taking sides. But that neutrality is only a mask. Deep down, he is loyal to only one person, himself. You've seen them in real life. In a company, they are the skilled employee, praised by everyone, but never truly committed. When a competitor offers, they leave instantly, taking internal secrets with them. In politics, they are the clever figure who balances between factions, never revealing a stance. But when the throne shakes, they appear as a new solution, claiming to deserve the crown more than the old ruler. In friendship, they are the one who gets along with everyone, always polite. But when crisis strikes you, they do not stay. They sit silently, watching to see who will win. The ambitious without loyalty rarely rebel openly. They wait. They remember every mistake, every weakness of yours. And when you start to falter, they are the first to step forward, not to save you, but to replace you. Machiavelli advises, never let such people climb too high. If you cannot bind them with interest, with fear, or with a future tied to your fate, then remove them before it's too late. Ask yourself, would this person still stand by me if I lost my power? If the answer is not sure, then that is not an ally. That is a candidate for your throne, and when the right moment comes, they won't need to seize it. They will simply step up as if they had deserved that seat all along. Have you ever met someone who is loyal only to themselves? If so, comment, I have seen it, to warn those who still trust opportunists. Using morality as a weapon. There are those who need no swords, no conspiracies, no armies. They can bring down an entire system with one invisible weapon: morality. Machiavelli saw this game clearly. When morality is turned into a political tool, it is no longer integrity. It becomes a mask to hide ambition. They will raise banners with noble slogans: justice, transparency, compassion. But look closer, you'll see they don't truly care about truth. What they really aim for is the seat of power. You've seen this in real life. In a company, someone says, "The boss is unfair, we need a better leader." But behind the words, the real goal is to replace the boss himself. In politics, someone shouts about transparency, but their ultimate aim is the throne. In a group of friends, there's the one who always plays the virtuous role, but in truth, uses morality to shame others into following them. This is the most dangerous trap. They don't attack you with facts, but with ideals, standards no one can ever fully meet. And the moment you're forced to defend yourself as pure, your power has already begun to shake. If you strike back hard, you're branded a tyrant. If you stay silent, you're seen as guilty. Either way, you lose. Machiavelli stressed, "Never let your throne turn into a stage for false saints." Because once power is ruled by emotional judgment, then anyone skilled at pretending to be virtuous can overthrow you. Remember, true morality is often quiet. Those with real principles give private, discreet advice. False morality always needs an audience. It must be performed, applauded, staged before a crowd. If you allow this weapon to spread, you won't just face one opponent. You'll open the gates to a flood, and when that flood sweeps through, your throne will be left in ashes, buried under tearful speeches. What do you think is more dangerous? The traitor who betrays you openly, or the one who attacks you with false morality? Leave your choice in the comments. Summary: Machiavelli's final message. We have just walked through 7 behaviors that must never be forgiven. Tiny cracks that can collapse an empire, a company, or even a life. Betrayal in times of crisis. The good friend who vanishes when you're jobless or bankrupt. Cowardice in leadership. The boss who only holds meetings, never dares to decide, letting the team dissolve. Flattery disguised as loyalty. Those who always praise you, but stay silent when you're wrong. Public challenges to authority. The employee mocking the boss in a meeting and the whole room begins to doubt. Ingratitude after favor. The one you lifted up who turns on you the moment you're weak. Ambition without loyalty. The talented colleague silently waiting to take your place. Using morality as a weapon. Those who wear fairness as a cloak to steal support and replace you. Machiavelli did not teach us to be cruel. He taught us to be awake, because collapse rarely comes from open enemies. It comes from what we allow. One betrayal overlooked, one flatterer fed, one act of ingratitude forgiven. If you hold any position others look up to, whether in a company, a family, or your own life, remember, watch closely the people around you. Distinguish clearly who is truly loyal, who is only performing. Punish early, so you won't have to punish often. And never let false morality become the rope tightening around your power. True strength does not come from being loved. It comes from knowing exactly what must never be forgiven. If you're still here at the end of this video, I believe you are not the kind who gets lulled to sleep by praise, nor broken by tears. You want to see reality. You want to protect what you've built with firmness, without compromise. And remember, Machiavelli left us with one cold truth. An empire never collapses from the outside. It decays from the small things you tolerate within. So among these 7 behaviors, which one do you believe is the most dangerous? Leave the number in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video right now.